Ijeoma Morenike Ifediora had built her name into a brand that people respected, maybe even envied. In Lagos, everyone had a story about her. Some said she had a gift for turning a plain hall into a palace. Others whispered she'd been lucky enough to know the right people at the right time. She let them talk, she knew the truth. Nothing about her rise had been luck. It had been hard work, borrowed money, sleepless nights, and the quiet, persistent fear that it could all be taken away. That fear felt closer than ever the afternoon her driver called her. "Madam, there are men from the bureau here. They said you should please come down." His voice sounded so apologetic she almost felt sorry for him. She pressed 2 fingers against her temple. "Did they say what it's about?" "Shipment papers, madam." Due, her stomach turned. She thought of the last declaration she'd signed without reading properly, telling herself it was just a formality. "I'll be there in 10 minutes, she managed. In the lobby, 3 uniformed men waited. The oldest one stepped forward with a polite smile that did nothing to soften the blow. "Madam, we are investigating irregularities in import declarations under your company's name." She swallowed. Her voice came out thin. "There must be a misunderstanding. My operations manager handles most of that." "You signed the forms," he said, still gentle. "We are not arresting you, but you need to come to Ikoyi and answer some questions." She nodded, feeling the old childhood dread uncoil in her chest, the dread of someone bigger and more powerful saying, "You are not in control." In the car, she sat very still. Her driver didn't speak. She barely noticed the shops and traffic blurring past. Her mind went backward, Surulere, the tiny flat with cracked walls, her mother working the sewing machine late into the night, her father shaking his head and muttering in Igbo about how Lagos swallowed men whole. They hadn't lived long enough to see her succeed. She wondered what they would think if they could see her now. At the bureau office, Esosa Odugbemi, a vibrant man in his late 40s, sat across from her in a glass-walled room. He looked tired, like he'd rather be anywhere else. "Ijeoma," he began gently, "I don't think you're a criminal, but these papers carry your signature, and someone benefited from the underreporting." She rubbed her palm over the table's edge. "I trusted Kunle," she whispered. "He said it was normal, everyone does it." Esosa sighed. "I hear that often, but everyone doesn't get caught." When she returned to her office, Temi was waiting. Her lawyer didn't speak right away. She just held out the file, and Ijeoma felt something in her throat catch. "You're going to have to issue a statement," Temi said finally, "before the story leaks everywhere." Ijeoma leaned her forehead against the glass wall. "I'm not ready," she said, her voice breaking. "You'll never be ready," Temi replied quietly. "But it's better you tell the truth yourself than have it twisted for you." By Thursday morning, the gossip had already started. She received calls she couldn't bear to answer, messages she left unread. On Friday evening, she sat alone in her apartment, the sky outside already dark. Her phone buzzed over and over until finally she opened it and began to type. "To everyone who has trusted me and worked with me, I failed to pay close attention to the practices within my business. I signed documents without proper scrutiny and allowed shortcuts I knew in my heart were wrong. I'm not proud of any of this, and I will cooperate fully. I don't expect your sympathy. I only hope in time to earn back a measure of trust." She hovered over post, her finger shaking, then she pressed it. Sunday morning, she didn't dress up. She chose a plain blue wrapper and a white blouse, no makeup, no jewelry. She parked by the low fence outside the church in Yaba and just sat there for a while. Inside, Pastor Obasi's voice rose and fell in the warm air. She didn't hear every word, but she caught something he said. "Sometimes God lets us see what's under the surface, not to shame us, but to give us a chance to rebuild." She started to cry. Quietly at first, then in harsh, silent sobs she couldn't stop. When the service ended, she stayed seated, wiping her face with her hands. She didn't have the courage to go up to him. But in that moment, she felt something she hadn't in months, a flicker of hope she didn't deserve but needed all the same. That night, she sat on the balcony, her phone on the small table beside her. Temi's message arrived close to midnight. The bank is willing to restructure repayment if you meet with them in person. She read it twice, then set the phone down. She was still in debt. Her name was still tarnished, but for the first time she knew she could survive it. She folded her hands in her lap, feeling the Lagos night press around her. This was not the life she had imagined when she started, but maybe she thought it could still become a life worth living. Ijeoma barely slept that night. She lay on her side, staring at the long shadows the moon cast across the floor, feeling the familiar ache in her chest. For years she had convinced herself that success could shield her from loss. Now it was all unraveling, one phone call at a time. On Monday morning, she arrived early at her office in Ikoyi. The air smelled stale, as if it already knew she wouldn't be staying long. Chuka had left a stack of final invoices and a small envelope she didn't recognize. She turned it over in her hand and realized with a cold jolt it was from the landlord. Notice to vacate. She pressed her palm over her mouth, willing herself not to break down again. When Temi came later that afternoon, Ijeoma couldn't hide the panic in her voice. "They're closing in on me. My staff, some have already left. Clients are blocking my calls, my lease." Temi touched her arm. "Slow down. Listen to me. You still have a chance to negotiate if you face this head-on." "Face it?" Her voice came out as a raw whisper. "Temi, do you understand what it means to have everyone watching you fail?" Temi sighed. "Yes, but running will cost you more. It always does." In the days that followed, she signed more papers than she could count. Some were to release her event inventory to creditors. Some were acknowledgements that she owed more than she could repay. Each signature felt like a small funeral for the woman she had tried so hard to become. Late one evening, she called Kunle. She didn't expect him to answer, but he did, sounding wary. "Ijeoma," he said, his tone clipped. "This isn't a good time." She closed her eyes. "You told me it was normal." "I told you what everyone else does," he said flatly. "You were the one who signed." A long silence settled between them. She felt a slow, nauseating grief for her own cowardice, for the shortcuts she'd excused, for the trust she'd put in people who would never lose sleep over any of it. "I needed to hear you say it," she said quietly. "That's all." She ended the call and placed her phone face down on the table.